What is up, everybody? Hasan Biker here. Shout out to all the Hasanabis.
Ethan went way too far this time. Hello, my name is Liz Ashley and welcome to my channel. So we're going to talk about Ethan and ContraPoints and Ethan agreeing with ContraPoints. I thought it would be funny to open with something else Ethan said. And in my last video, I talked about how I wasn't really going to talk about him anymore. He just kind of crashing out and like, I don't know, I was just kind of like, ugh, put off on it. But he happened to agree with ContraPoints, and now I'm going to talk about that. But he also talked about Hasan Minhaj and how he talked about him, called him out on his stories. And you know what? When I started this channel, I was talking more about like celebrity drama and just like internet, regular internet drama. And I was trying to, put leftist stuff in there. And one of those things was saying like all celebrities suck. And I always said there's one celebrity that I will like ride or die for, and it is him. I love him. I've been to many of his comedy shows. He's amazing. But he went after him. Okay, let me tell you what he said. So it was like a double Hasan stream, and it was so cool. He like sat there and he was doing like Hasan's intro. Oh my god, I was like, this is so cool. Anyway, so Ethan, this is what Ethan said. Ethan said, how cool. Hasan Minhaj is another mainstream personality doing zero due diligence to ensure that they are not endorsing literal Hamas terrorists mouthpieces. So cool. First of all, that's crazy. Ethan just continues to be Islamophobic and then like never sees like what he's doing or what he's saying as Islamophobic, like just like constantly. Also, I'm like, do you know who he is? Like, have you watched his comedy shows? Because if you know, you would know that he talks about what it was like as a kid after 9/11 and like how him and his friends got treated and like what that was like for him. So if you really think this man is gonna sit here and think that Hasan's like a terrorist, you just don't know who you're talking about. Like you don't know who you're talking about. Yeah, okay, sorry. That really really grinded my gears, man. Grinding my gears, man. But okay, now let's talk about ContraPoints. But anyway, Ethan agreed with ContraPoints. So ContraPoints posted a Reddit the other day, and the whole internet is talking about it. And something that she does in this, I'm gonna put it out there in the beginning. Something that she does is call out internet leftists. It's like a pastime for a lot of people. And like, especially online leftists, I feel. I do see myself as an online leftist. Even though I feel like I talk about drama, I try to talk about I try to put like stuff in there too. It's not just drama. But this is what she said, and so I'm gonna go through it. So she says, my thoughts on Israel-Palestine. I'm posting this to Reddit instead of Twitter, hopefully to minimize fragments being clipped out of context. Sincerest apology to the mods. Yeah, I'm not going to clip her out of context. I'm gonna read the whole thing. So many leftists feel betrayed because I haven't made a video on Palestine. Do they actually want a ContraPoint video about Palestine? Will they be happy if I get in the bath and pour milk on a mannequin of Benjamin Netanyahu? No. I have posted about Gaza occasionally and have quietly given money to Palestinian aid organizations, but I think what leftists really want is for me to join their chorus of anger. They sense some hesitation on my part and are judging me very harshly on my presumed opinions. I'd rather be judged on my actual opinions, so here they are. She says, is Israel committing a genocide in Gaza? Yes. Do I oppose it? Yes. Do I feel angry about it? Yes. I also feel a lot of other things. And so, I think like a lot of other people that like she hasn't talked about it at this point. She should have just not posted anything. I think she should have just not posted anything personally. I think at this point, like, again, like the tide has shifted on the narrative around this. The tide has shifted in polling. Everyone wants to talk about polling. Well, the tide has shifted in that area. And so I do think that posting this now, I just don't understand why you would do that. It kind of just feels like, kind of like Ethan, like almost like self-victimization of like, I didn't want to talk about this, but you guys made me, and now I'm gonna get like ridiculed, and now people are gonna push back on me for it. She said, one, doom. The week after October 7th, it was clear to the mood among Israeli leaders and civilians was overwhelmingly killed or be killed, existential panic, an unstoppable lust for revenge. It reminded me of the US after 9/11. There was no reasoning or protesting them out of it, nor was it politically feasible for the US to withdraw aid to Israel in a time frame that would make a difference. That's not true at all. Um, that's not true at all. Um, it would have required replacing most of Congress and overturning decades of bipartisan strategy and diplomacy. Even in the best case scenario, it would have taken years. So there was a sense of fealty, but worse. I I don't know. I just don't like that. Like, I hate that. That like, oh, there would have been no time where not giving aid would have been feasible or would have done anything. That's not true. That's not true at all, actually. Um, wild. And then okay. There was a sense of fealty, but worse, misery. The leftist pro-Palestine movement quickly decided that their primary goal was not merely opposition to the genocide, but opposition to Zionism in general. That is, opposition to the existence of Israel as a Jewish state. And here they decided to draw the line separating decent people from genocidal fascists, which had the following consequences. No, I think people just don't think that Israel should exist as an ethno state. I don't think any country should exist as an ethno state. I don't think there should be any country that has an ethno state. They're trying to make the United States an ethno state, and I don't want that either. It shrunk the coalition. That's not true. That's not true. And again, a lot of people want to be like, oh, polling. That's not true. There was a poll recently about Democrats and their sympathy towards Palestinians, and it has gone up. Okay. And so that's not true at all. It shrunk the coalition. Zionist is a very broad category. Most Jews are Zionists. Now that's anti-Semitic. That is not true. The people at the forefront of the Palestinian movement are Jewish people. Jewish voices for peace are like at the forefront of this fight. So that's not true. Ethan does the same thing. He conflates the two, and even talking with Sam Cedar, he's saying it is dangerous for you to conflate Judaism with Zionism. It is dangerous for you to conflate anti-Zionism with anti-Judaism. It is dangerous, and it is going to hurt more people than it is going to help. And Ethan didn't want to listen, and ContraPoints has like a similar view on it. She said, it was politically infeasible. What is the pathway that takes us from the present situation to the dissolution of the Israel as a Jewish state? I don't see how this could happen without either a total internal collapse of Israeli society or else, a nuclear war. As usual, leftists have championed a doomed cause. Okay, so this is where I get frustrated because I'm like, first of all, it's not a doomed cause. Okay, people have been fighting for this for decades. Okay, decades. This is not new. Okay, sentiment has turned so much in society. It's frustrating because it's like, okay, no, sentiment has changed. People like Zoran are out here saying, no, I just want them to have equal rights. I just want there to be equal rights. That's what I want, a state with equal rights. And that is not what it is right now. How is fighting against that somehow not feasible? Why is fighting against that somehow a doomed cause? Like, I don't understand that. Another thing that I want to say I have a lot of feelings about is she's using the same kind of arguments that people use against trans people. And I'm a firm believer that none of us are free until all of us are free. And so I think all oppression is interconnected. And so when people like ContraPoints are sitting here being like, oh, it's a doomed cause, why are you standing up for it? Okay, people have said that about trans rights. Lots of media pundits, Jank, Anna, all these different people online want to sit here and want to be like, it's a doomed cause. People don't care. Why do you keep talking about it? And it's like, I'm not talking about it. They're talking about it. And I'm telling, and I'm fighting back because trans people deserve to have human rights. They deserve to be treated with respect. And I think everyone does. I just don't understand how you can't see that. Like, I don't understand how you can't see that. And I think a lot of this, even with like Ethan and like, I think a lot of people, they just have this cognitive dissonance. They have this cognitive dissonance. For some reason, they just can't see like they can't see Palestinians as human. They can't see them as human beings. It introduced dangerous ambiguities. The vagueness of Zionism as a political Satan enables all kinds of rhetorical abuse. On the right hand, right-wing Israelis hold up anti-Zionist protests as existentially threatening and inherently anti-Semitic. On the other hand, there's a long history of anti-Semites using the term Zionist in deliberately equivocal ways. Anti-Semites are happy for the opportunity to misappropriate the now popular anti-Zionist label to legitimize their agenda, and many people are not informed enough about what anti-Semitism is to recognize when this is happening. These problems are mutually reinforcing. I do agree that there are people like Candace Owens, there are people like Tucker Carlson, there are people who are anti-Semitic, who like should be called out and should not be able to take over the narrative, because they are anti-Semitic and they do use that as a shield. And a lot of people, like earlier I saw something on Threads and someone was like, wow, I'm agreeing with like Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson and Andrew Schultz and all this stuff, what a world. And it was almost like they're coming to see the light, and I'm like, no, Candace Owens is not coming to see the light, Tucker Carlson is not coming to see the light. I don't know about Andrew Schultz, he just seems dumb. But like they're not coming to see the light. They're good at manipulating their stances and manipulating their words. They're just lying a lot of the time too. Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens are anti-Semitic. Okay, they are anti-Semitic, and I will scream it from the rooftops. Okay, and people, I always have Jank's name in my mouth, and Anna. People like Jank and Anna who want to sit here and be like, oh, Candace Owens, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, that's harmful. That's harmful to the people who are pro-Palestine, because now because Anna, that's what she reports to be. But then she's over here being like, well, Candace Owens, she's really doing good things these days. And it's like, no, no, no. People like Hasan and people like Sam Cedar and people like Matt Lieb and people like Francesca, and there's so many different people who are very good orators and are good at talking about these things, and are not anti-Semitic. They also call out people like Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens who are anti-Semitic and try to teach people the difference. And so I think that's important. I don't think that means that people should stop talking about what's going on. That's a weird argument. So the next thing she said is dread. The online left has spent this is the part where I'm just like, okay, you just really wanted to yell at the online left. Like, you're just mad. You're just mad at everyone online because you know that your stance really isn't that great. And so instead of like coming to terms with that or trying to learn more or what have you, she's just gonna go, well, just like lash out on the left like everybody does online. I swear. Dread. The online left has spent the last 20 months distributing hundreds of photos and videos of dead Palestinian children. The main effect of this has been to create a population of people in a constant state of blood-boiling rage with no consequential political outlet. I fear this may be worse than useless. Anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism are conceptually not the same. Okay, well, good. At least she admits that. Conflating them is dangerous, even though she's been doing that this whole time. And it's so funny that Ethan posted this because Ethan conflates it all the time and doesn't think conflating it is a problem. So it's funny he posted this. In practice, the way Israel is perceived does seep out into the attitudes towards Jewish people in general. I don't think Jewish people who feel isolated and hysterical and hallucinating. Yes, there's a communal trauma and hypervigilance. Yes, there's disingenuous right-wing goals dismissing and censoring all criticism of Israel on the pretext of fighting anti-Semitism, but there's also valid fear, and that fear gives power to the right-wing Zionist claim that only Israel can keep Jewish people safe. Does this mean Israel should not be criticized or sanctioned? Absolutely not. but it's something I don't want to risk contributing to if not outweighed by tangible benefits. That's a part, like, when it gets to the end, you can see her real motive, you know? She's like, I don't want to do this if it's not gonna like have benefits. Like benefits to what? Benefits to who? Like, I don't understand. She said, so I approached the issue cautiously. Bitterness. Okay, so this is the next thing. She felt bitterness. Much of the online that's what this is. It's bitterness. That's what it is. It's bitterness. It's bitterness. It's bitterness. That's what it is. Like, you're mad. And it's like, you didn't have to say anything. You didn't have to say anything. She's bitter that people are asking her to talk about it because at this point, they kind of understand what her feelings are if she hasn't talked about it. Bitterness. Much of the online left spent all of 2024 single-mindedly focused on Palestine and the complicity of the Democratic politicians in sending aid to Israel. This campaign had the following effects. This is the part where I am going to get heated. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Okay, 0 Palestinian lives were saved. Not one fewer bomb or bullet was fired by the IDF. Okay, but that's because the Democrats weren't listening. They weren't listening, but people were protesting, and that was their goal. And that's why they lost. And that's why they lost. People don't want to talk about it, but it is why they lost. I think having resentment for people who didn't feel comfortable for voting for Kamala Harris or the Democrats, I think is just, I think a lot of people have, I think a lot of liberals and I think a lot of people in the center have a lot of resentment towards leftists who didn't want to do this. And they think that if leftists didn't make this such a big deal, that she would have won the election. I don't think that's true, because I think the Democrats, as we can see now, are not fighting for anything, are not standing for anything. There are very few who actually want to say what's going on. And if you see, Zoran won. To act like this issue is somehow bad politically is wrong, one. And two, like, I get it. You have resentment for people for not voting for her. But you should have resentments toward the Democrats. Your resentment should be towards the Democrats. Your resentment should be that they didn't have an alternative narrative. Your resentment should be that they shouldn't have backpedaled on all the things that they said they cared about, like immigration, like trans people. I remember during her speech when she said she wanted the most lethal military, and I was like, oh, this is it. I was like, this is it. I was like, this is it. This is it. I knew in that moment that she was not going to win. People do not want that. That is not what people want. They are so far from their base, and they're continuing to talk down to everyone and be like, no, we know what's better for you. You might be our base, but we don't care. We're going to listen to our donors instead. That is the problem. That is the problem. And it is so glaringly obvious. And a lot of people are waking up to that. So to still have resentment for people who did not feel comfortable for voting for them, I don't think that's beneficial. I don't think that's going to do anything. I don't think that's going to push us forward. What I think is going to push us forward is actually fighting for people and actually getting people in office like Zoran. Now, look, I'm not going to say he's going to save everything, because he's not. But one thing that he can do is push this party to the left, which is so desperately needs to be done. We are fighting fascism in our own country, and to act like the two are not interconnected is silly. Okay, the police officers, they get trained. Cori Bush talks about this all the time, that during the Black Lives Matter movement in St. Louis, when she was out protesting, there were Palestinians out there with them too, and they taught them how to handle like tear gas and all these different things, because that's where a lot of the law enforcement got trained. That's who they were trained by. And so it is interconnected. To act like our struggles are not interconnected, to act like one person's struggle for freedom is not your own struggle for freedom, is not true. It is all interconnected. And so I just don't like this. I think a lot of liberals don't want to see what's right in front of them. They don't want to see that they're wrong, because a lot of liberals want to think that they're anti-racist and to think that they're, they're for the people. And so they have this cognitive dissonance, and then they get upset and they have a resentment towards leftists. So she said it had the following effects. 0 Palestinian lives were saved. not one fewer bomb that was fired by the IDF. It may have slightly contributed to the re-election of Trump, guaranteeing that the U.S. will put no diplomatic pressure on Netanyahu for at least 4 years. Biden never put pressure on him. Never. And it was a lie, and it came out as a lie, and he never put pressure on him. So, okay. And making protests against Israel both much riskier and less effective. Again, this all started under Biden, and Biden started a lot of this crackdown on college protesters. Trump is also, incidentally, a menace to me and basically everyone I care about. A perfectly enlightened being would feel no bitterness about this, but I do. None of this is the fault of Palestinians, of course, who are overwhelmingly the victims here. I hope that someday American policy will shift in their favor, and I will continue to support that cause. Sounds about white. Sounds about like a white moderate. There are so many different causes that you could be like, okay, well, when American policy catches up, then like I'll catch up too. You could have said that about gay marriage. That's what Obama did. Obama wasn't for gay marriage in his first term. Then in his second term, he's like, okay, well, I guess, we can have the U.S. catch up. You're not going to be okay with it. You're not going to stand for it. You're not going to say anything about it. You were not going to be okay with it unless it's U.S. law. And then it's like, okay, then cool. Then I'll talk about it. Then it'll be cool. Then I'll be fine. Then I won't write these paragraphs. Okay, and then she said, TLDR, I see the situation as bleak, irretractable, extremely divisive, and devoid of any element that could be appropriately transformed in political enlightenment. That's why I haven't made a video about it. Okay. I don't even know what to say to that. Hopefully it goes without saying that these are just my thoughts. I'm sure other bread tubers have different opinions. I think that was at the Cavernacle because the Cavernacle's been talking about bread tubers. But Ethan then said, thank you, ContraPoints. It's important to remind people that there is space to be anti-genocide, pro-Palestine, but also against annihilating Israel. No one said that. No one said that. Not one person said that. It is my belief that any lasting peace must have two elements: Palestinian self-determination and secure borders for Israel, like Trump wants secure borders for America. Right? Okay. We all know how that looks, right? Okay. Just saying, without both, peace falls. Many leftists would rather focus on purity tests and social credits than having meaningful and realistic conversations about creating lasting peace. First of all, this is what everyone does when they want to, when leftists are criticizing them, they want to be like, oh, the purity test. They sound just like conservatives. Like, this is what conservatives say about leftists. This is what people say about leftists. They say purity test because we're not willing to throw people under the bus. And they're like, why can't you just let me be? Ethan's like, why can't you just let me be Islamophobic? Ethan's like, why can't you just let me be Islamophobic and just shut up about it? Just shut up about it. Also, Ethan was not trying to have meaningful conversations. That debate with Hasan was not at all trying to have a meaningful conversation. Actually, it was more about Ethan and his gripes than it was about having a meaningful conversation at all. And he was acting like a child, so not a meaningful conversation. And then he said, the reaction to your post will prove my point, unfortunately. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people have been going after her. I think a lot of people see what's going on and they want it to stop. I just think that continuing to blame leftists for all the problems going on when the Democrats are not acting like an opposition party against fascism is the problem. And people who do that, I will call out because the Democrats need to do better. And until they do, we're going to be stuck in this situation. When the worst person you know agrees with you, well, you should maybe rethink your stance. Hasan was on Twitter and he was like, if you don't have unconditional support now, then you shouldn't, it would have been more honorable for you to not say anything about it. And Ethan was like, what part of her statement wasn't unconditional? And I'm like, the whole thing. That was the whole thing. That's why people have problems, because the whole thing is showing that it's conditional. It's not unconditional. When you say I agree, but that's not unconditional. That's, yeah. Okay. Anyway, that's the video for today. Tell me what you think below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, turn on post notifications, all the things. And I will see you all in the next video. Bye. Shout out to my members. Thank you to all my members. We have Troy Roberto and Queen of Daydreams. Thank you so much for supporting me. It means the world to me, honestly. And if you want to get a shout out, please join my membership and support my channel. Bye.